Now, 24 hours removed from the deadly riots at the Capitol yesterday, we are learning more about the moments leading up to those confrontations. NewsNation anchor Rutabaga Shabazi breaks down how the day's major developments unfolded.
The occupation of the building at the heart of American democracy by a mob who used violence to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power showed that it could be upended by a group of its own citizens if they're angry and determined enough.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Midday Wednesday, President Trump again refuses to concede and makes more baseless claims of widespread voter fraud, urging his supporters to march down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Police, tear down the barriers.
1:55 p.m. Thousands gather outside the Capitol to protest the electoral results. Lawmakers inside have convened to certify Joe Biden's presidential win. Senator Ted Cruz objects to the certification of votes in Arizona and calls for an emergency audit.
Recent polling shows that 39% of Americans believe the election that just occurred, quote, was rigged.
2:20 p.m. Capitol Police start evacuating some congressional office buildings as skirmishes erupt between protesters and police. The Senate is forced into recess and the building is locked down as rioters tear down barricades. 2:30 p.m. Trump supporters breach the Capitol using chemical irritants on police. Lawmakers are evacuated, escorted out by police. Others shelter in place in their offices.
We barricaded the doors. We heard alarms going off and protesters storming in the hallways.
2:45 p.m. President Trump tweets that protesters should stay peaceful as they continue to violently clash with law enforcement. Members of Congress inside the House chamber are instructed by police to put on their gas masks after tear gas is deployed inside the Capitol rotunda. 3:15 p.m. Washington, D.C. requests an additional 200 National Guard members. 3:25 p.m. As pressure grows on President Trump to call the mob off, he tweets again, encouraging occupiers to support law enforcement, but not calling for them to leave the Capitol. 3:30 p.m. A woman, later identified as Ashley Babbitt, is shot while attempting to climb through a shattered window of the Capitol building. She would later be pronounced dead. The Department of Homeland Security sends additional federal agents to the Capitol to try to quell the violence. 4 p.m. Top Democrats in Congress and some Republican lawmakers, including Vice President Mike Pence, call on President Trump to demand that all protesters leave the Capitol. All 1,100 Washington, D.C. National Guard members are mobilized.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
4:10 p.m. President-elect Joe Biden makes a public appeal to President Trump.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people.
President Trump releases a video message urging supporters to go home, but also telling them they're very special and continuing his attacks on the sanctity of the presidential election. 5:40 p.m. Rioters tear down scaffolding and throw it at officers. Police use tear gas and percussion grenades to begin clearing the crowd. 5:50. After a nearly 4-hour occupation, officials declare the U.S. Capitol complex secure 10 minutes before a curfew goes into effect. 6:25 p.m. President Trump tweets again saying, quote, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from the great patriots. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever." 6:45 p.m. Officers in riot gear line the streets as dozens of Trump supporters defy the curfew, taunting law enforcement and moving barricades. 7:45 p.m. The Republican National Committee condemns the violence, and the group's communications director calls it domestic terrorism. 8:10 p.m. The Senate resumes the debate over the Republican challenge of President-elect Biden's victory. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer blames President Trump for the unrest.
This will be a stain on our country, not so easily washed away. The final, terrible, indelible legacy of the 45th President of the United States.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the election results will be confirmed.
They tried to disrupt our democracy. They failed. They failed.
Multiple Republican senators who previously backed the president's false claims reverse course and say they will not object, including Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler, who earlier in the day lost her seat.
And I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors.
9:55 p.m. Senator Josh Hawley goes forward with his objection to the Electoral College results in Pennsylvania. Longtime Trump ally Senator Lindsey Graham affirms Joe Biden is the legitimate president of the United States.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
By 10:15 p.m., the Senate overwhelmingly turns aside the challenge to Biden's win in Arizona, 93-6. Lawmakers spend the next 5 hours debating and certifying results from the remaining states. 3:45 a.m. Thursday, Congress has certified the election results. The session adjourns.
The chair declares the joint session dissolved.
By morning, investigators confirmed 4 total deaths in the Capitol riots, 3 of them from, quote, medical emergencies, along with the woman who was shot and killed. Dozens of officers were injured, and police also discovered 2 pipe bombs, one outside the DNC headquarters and another outside RNC headquarters. Rudabeh Shabazi, News Nation.